Welcome to CO451 Networking. This time we're looking at exercise, or the first exercise, which is connecting a wired and wireless LAN. So this is the first exercise for week 4 within CO451 Networking. So we're in the exercise for this week, the first one, connect a wired and wireless LAN. And you can see the instructions that are presented to you here. We have our addressing table as always with all the devices and the various interfaces and IP addresses and what they connect to. We have objectives for this exercise, which is to connect to the cloud, connect to router 0, connect the remaining devices within the network, and verify connections, and then examine the physical topology of our network. If we just go and quickly just take a look at what we've got in the exercise itself, we can see in our logical view we have various devices that we need to connect up, and then we have the physical view where we can see those devices in their physical situation and location. So I'll just zoom that in a little bit. So let's go back to the instructions and we'll work our way through this exercise. So the background to this is, it says, when working in Packet Tracer, a lab environment or a corporate setting, you should know how to select the appropriate cable and how to properly connect devices. This activity will examine device configurations in Packet Tracer, selecting the proper cable based on the configuration and connecting the devices. This activity will also explore the physical view of the network in Packet Tracer. So part 1 then is to connect to the cloud. So step 1, connect to the cloud, connect the cloud to router 0. And it says at the bottom left, click the orange lightning icon to open the available connections. Choose the correct cable to connect router 0 fast Ethernet 00 port to the cloud Ethernet 6. So cloud is a type of switch to use copper, so we should use a copper straight through connection, and if we attach the correct cable, the link lights on the cable should turn green. Okay, so we're going from router 0 fast Ethernet 00 to the cloud Ethernet 6 port, and because it's a type of switch we are using copper straight through connection. So let's go to the exercise and do that. So there's router 0, there's the cloud. So here we're on our lightning connections, and if we move across, this is the copper straight through, and we're going to go from fast Ethernet 00, and we're going to connect to clouds Ethernet 6, so Ethernet port 6 on the cloud, and there we go, we get green lights there, so that's connected correctly. So let's go back to the instructions. So step 2, connect the cloud to the cable modem. So we're going to choose the correct cable to connect cloud coax 7 to the modem port 0. And again, if we correctly connect the right cable, we're going to get green link light. So it's a cloud, it's on coax, so it's a coaxial cable that we need, and that's going to go into the modem port 0. So again, if we go over to our devices and let's do that. If we wanted to have a look at our cable modem first, we can do that. We have a physical view of it, and if I zoom in, you can see that we do have a coaxial connection here. And so if we take our coaxial cable, which is this one, so the dark blue is the coax. So coax cable from the cloud, coax 7, and connect that to port 0, which has the icon for the coax here as well, the coax port 0. And then back to the exercise. So that's the first part done, so we're connected to the cloud. Now part 2 is connecting to router 0. So the first step of this is connect router 0 to router 1. So we're going to choose the correct cable to connect router 0 serial port 000 to router 1 serial 00. And we're going to use a serial cable for this. It doesn't actually say which end it wants to be the clock connection, and which end is the terminal, but we'll assume clock at router 0 end. So again, we should get green lights on this if we connect it correctly. So let's go from serial 00 to 00. So back to our exercise, our logical view, and router 0 to router 1. So we're going to do the serial DCE end, the clock 10.router 0, and the DTE end at router 1. There we go, and indeed we get the green lights there. So let's back to the exercise. So step 2 is to connect router 0 to the NetCAD server. So it's going from choose the correct cable to connect router 0 fast Ethernet 01 port to the NetCAD fast Ethernet port 0. And again, as it says here, routers and computers traditionally use the same wires to transmit 1 and 2 and receive on 3 and 6. So the correct cable to choose consists of these crossed wires, although many network interface cards now auto sense which pair is used to transmit and receive. Router 0 and NetCAD do not have auto sensing network interface cards. Yeah, that's true. So if you were to plug in a straight through cable, and a lot of devices now, the network interface card will actually detect that you are trying to send and transmit on the same pairs, and they'll cross over for you. But what we're saying here is that these two devices don't have that auto sensing, that ability to do that. So you have to get the right cable, because they're forcing you to use the right cable, which is a crossover cable. So crossover cable is what we want here. So let's do that. So a crossover cable, by the way, is just it is an Ethernet cable. It's just been wired up so that literally the pins at one end cross over and connect to different pins on the other. So send goes to receive, and receive goes to send on the two devices that would normally be using the same pins. So it just crosses over in the wiring of the cable. So it's still an Ethernet cable. So copper crossover cable, router 0. Fast Ethernet to the NetCAD fast Ethernet 0. There we go. So what's next on the instructions? So step 3, connect router 0 to the configuration terminal. So choose the correct cable to connect router 0 console to configuration terminal RS232. This cable does not provide network access to configuration terminal, but allows you to configure router 0 through its terminal. So this is a terminal connection. This is for configuring router 0 from our terminal, and again, it's a special type of cable, console cable, that we use to go from the console port on the router to normally an RS232, although more commonly nowadays it's a USB rather than RS232. So RS232 is like a COM port, which is sort of disappearing from laptops and things in favor of USB. So USB converter to the console cable is now what you would normally have. So let's just connect that up as the console. So there's our configuration. So we need a console cable, which is the light blue cable, and configuration terminal RS232, and we're going to plug that into router 0's console port. There we go. Okay, that's connected. So that's the configuration terminal. So that's part 2 done. So part 3 then is to connect all the remaining devices. So step 1 of that is to connect router 1 to the switch. So router 1's fast Ethernet 10 to switch 01. Okay, so again, router to switch is a straight through cable, and so fast Ethernet 10 to switch 01. So let's go and do that. So fast Ethernet Oh, okay. Hang on. Fast Ethernet 10. Oh, it's not a Ethernet cable. Let's just have a quick look at that in more detail. Open that up. Have a look at the back of this one. So what have we got here? Well, we do have some Ethernet ports. There's the fast Ethernet port there, but we also have this, which is our fiber ports here. So we're going to need some fiber connections on this to connect that up. So we should have fiber, which is, where am I going? Fiber, here we go, fiber connection. So this orange one. And we're going to connect from fiber to the switch down here, which also has a fiber port, fast Ethernet 01. There we go, just take a minute to connect. So we get orange here, fast forward time, there we go, green. So this is on a fiber connection between the switch and router 1. Okay, let's go back to the instructions. So then we're connecting cable modem to a wireless router. So choose the correct cable to connect cable modem port 1 to our wireless router's internet port. So cable modem port 1 to our wireless router. So let's go over here. So cable modem, again, if we have a quick look at the back here. So we've got our Ethernet port there. And on here, again, we've got Ethernet ports there. So this should be just a straight through cable. Internet to port 1. There we go. And then what do we got to do finally? So connect wireless router to family PC. Choose the correct cable to connect the wireless router to the family PC. So that's, again, just a straight through cable, family PC, Ethernet to Ethernet 1. There we go. There we go. And the whole network is now fully connected. So we're connecting all devices and we're essentially set up. So back to the instructions. So port 4 then, verifying our connections. So we need to test the connection from the family PC to our Netacad server. So open the family PC, command prompt, and ping to netacad .pka. Open the web browser and use the web address http netacad.pka. So okay, so let's ping to that. So what's the, I'm just going to look for the Netacad IP address in the addressing list here. So 10.0.0.254. So we'll run a ping to there first of all from the family PC. So desktop, make that a bit bigger. Command prompt. So let's ping 10.0.0.254. So this is pinging the Netacad server, should be. So we timed out on the first one. And that's not unusual, but oh, there we go. Hang on, we were timed out on 2. Let's just do that again. Sometimes it has to learn the routes. Oh, that's fine now. So we're getting a connection. So it's good to just try this a couple of times just to get connections through. There we go. Good. So that's pinging that one. And then it just wants us to try the web browser. So http netacad, oops, netacad.pka Yay, there we go. So that's got a connection as well. That's good. So the family PC is connected. So what else have we got here? So ping the switch from the home PC. Open the home PC and ping switch. So what's the switch's IP address? So switch IP is 172.16.0.2. From the home PC. The home PC, desktop, command prompt, and ping 172.16.0.2. Oops. And again, we should get a timeout on the first one. And then hopefully we get replies on the remaining. We might get another timeout and then replies. Yeah, there we go. So we just run again, we get replies straight away. Excellent. So that's working fine. Next. So we tested the family PC, we've got the home PC, and then it wants us to open router 0 from configuration terminal. Open the terminal configuration, accept the default settings, enter to view the router 0 command prompt, and we're going to do show IP interface brief just to check the status of the interfaces on router 0. Okay, so let's go to our configuration terminal. And again, on the desktop, open up the terminal connection. Default settings are fine. And click OK. And there we go. We're into the device. There's router 0. So show IP interface brief. There we go. So that's fine. And then part 5 then is to examine the physical topology. So getting us to examine the cloud first. So click physical workspace tab or press Shift P for physical and Shift L to toggle logical to toggle between them. Click on the city icon and click on cloud. And it's asking us how many wires are connected to the switch in the blue rack. Okay, so let's go and take a look at the blue rack. So the blue rack should, I mean, it's the cloud, so it should have 2 because we've got 2 wires on our logical view here. So in the physical, we should see the same. So there's the cloud, there's the rack. Let's zoom right on in. There we go. So we've got our cloud connections here. So we've got our coax and our Ethernet connections there. So 2. And then it wants us to have a look at the primary network. Click on the primary network icon, hold the mouse pointer over the various cables. What is located on the table to the right of the blue rack. Okay, let's go and have a quick look at that. So we just go back up and our primary network. So we zoomed right in there. Let's zoom it out a little bit. Come down. Next to it, well, that's the configuration terminal. So that's the terminal computer that we're using to configure the router in the rack here. So that's what's to the right, a configuration terminal computer that on the bench next to it. So in this simulation, they show it the rack, and there's the computer sat on the table next to it. Okay, so examine the secondary network. So secondary network, mouse pointer over various cables. Why are there 2 orange cables connected to each device? So click back Yeah, okay, so secondary network. Let's zoom in, take a look. Okay, so, whoops. So 2 cables here. 2 cables here. Yeah, so this is fiber, and with fiber you have they come in pairs because you have 1 cable for sending and 1 cable for receiving. So with fiber you need separate cables for sending and receiving, so it's not combined, because if you think about it, what you've got in a fiber cable is glass filaments. So the filaments are only wired one way, so it's 1 connection either end. So it's 1 connection for sending and 1 connection for receiving. Hence you need 2, in this case, orange fiber cables between the switch and the router here. So that's why there's 2. Okay, so that's why there's 2 orange cables. Send and receive, fiber. And then finally we've got the examine the home network. Why is there no rack to hold the equipment on the home network? So if we have a look at the home network, there's the home network over here. And we're zoomed in a bit again, so let's zoom back out. So we've got a home network here, we've got a couple of PCs, we've got our modem, wireless router and a printer. The reason they're not in a rack is because, well, most people at home don't have racks. And home devices like this little wireless router and cable modem are not designed to go in racks anyway. So it's just trying to obviously simulate that and have the home network would just be sat on tables and as you would at home. So that's why there's no racking there. And I think that's the end of that exercise. Yeah, that's it. So we didn't do too bad, 37 minutes to complete that. And let's just I like to check the results. And we get the overall, you completed it, and full ticks of everything we did. Great. So that's done. Excellent. So thank you very much for doing that little first exercise with us for week 4. Hopefully that made sense to you. If not, go through it again. And again, with these exercises, good idea to try and perhaps build your own network a little bit at this stage. Should be trying to push a little bit to develop your own network from scratch in Packet Tracer. So, take the example within the exercise as kind of a template and then rebuild it yourself from scratch, putting all the devices together. That's kind of a good exercise to go through. Okay, thank you very much for your time.